Welcome to a Faithful God podcast. I'm your host, Tammy Rotzel, and today on the show, we're going to talk about what faith in God really is. Not what we think it looks like, but what it really is. So grab those earbuds and your favorite beverage and join me for today's show. Well, hey friend, happy Friday. Welcome back. Listen, I am so excited about today because today starts a 4-part series in a series called on a series on faith in God. Over the next few weeks, we are going to talk about, we're going to dig into Daniel 3, where we talk about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. I always have trouble saying that name. We're also going to talk about Daniel in the lion's den, and we're going to dig into the story about Jesus and how he fed 5,000. But today, what I want to talk about is what faith in God really looks like. Not what we think it should look like, right? Those unrealistic expectations I talk about all the time. Not what we think faith in God should look like, but what it really looks like. Now, a while back, we actually did an episode about what to do when you're losing faith in God. And that's episode number 124. You can head over to footprintsofinspiration.com/124. Or if you're out driving around, don't worry, my friend, I've got you. I put the link in the show notes. But and by the way, you don't need to listen to that episode before doing this episode. Just make sure that you listen to it at some point, because again, it's about what to do when you're losing faith in God. But in today's show, like I said, we're going to talk about what faith really looks like. I'm going to talk about the armor of God, and specifically the shield of faith and how to use it. How to actually use the shield of faith. And then we'll finish up with talking about just how to, as we're talking about how to use the shield of faith, but how often we should use it and all of that good stuff. So let's go ahead and dive in. So I want to start by talking about the reality of faith. And I want to start with this one particular quote. Nothing attempted for God will go unchallenged. The enemy's number one goal is to disrupt and destroy. So when you're walking close to God, as we go through this series and you actually take and you put these things into practice, because you know I am all about putting things in practice. It's not enough just to hear God's word. It's not enough to just listen to these stories. If we want to experience true growth and transformation in our lives, we've got to put them into practice. But here's what I want you to know. When your faith in God strengthens, when you learn to trust God more and more, the enemy will show up and he will turn up the heat. Okay, let him. You know, a while back, something I teach my students in Confident Prayer Warrior, and I know I've mentioned it on the show as well. I did try to look it up and I couldn't figure out which episode it was, but about the Wigglesworth attitude. If we want to have true faith in God and experience that relationship with him, that growth and transformation, we've got to develop the Wigglesworth attitude. Now, if you don't know what this is, there was a British evangelist many, many years ago named Sam Wigglesworth. And there's a story of him where he woke up in the middle of the night and he saw Satan up in the corner of his room manifesting himself, right? Puffing himself up, trying to put on this big display to scare Sam Wigglesworth. Wigglesworth sees Satan over there in the corner of his room. He says, oh, it's you. Rolls over and goes back to sleep. Did you catch that, my friend? Wigglesworth looks at Satan, says, it's you. Rolls over and goes back to sleep. Satan will, right? His number one goal is to steal, kill, and destroy, to disrupt and destroy. That will happen. That's going to happen with faith. Just because you're walking close to God doesn't mean you're immune to Satan's attacks. You've got to develop the Wigglesworth attitude. It's you. Keep on going, my friend. There's this great quote by Philip Yancey, and this is what he says. Faith means believing in advance what will only make sense in reverse. Things won't make sense to you right now. We have to put our faith in action even before we know all the details. We have to put our faith, our trust in God, even when we don't have the whole picture. It's not going to make sense to us until the end. And to be honest with you, there are times that even afterwards, it doesn't make total sense to us. We'll never get full clarity until we get to heaven. So let's just let that go. Let's just let that unrealistic expectation go. Now, here's the other thing that I want you to really understand about faith. Faith is not the absence of doubt and fear. Did you hear that? Faith is not the absence of doubt and fear. Faith isn't incompatible with your doubt. Faith means we take it to God. We take our fears, our worries, our stress, our uncertainties to God. That's what faith is. Because what that does is when we take that to God, it demonstrates to him that, you know what, Lord, we're scared. We have a lot of doubt, but we're choosing to trust you, right? What do I say all the time? Faith isn't a feeling. We have to choose to trust God, right? Trusting God isn't a feeling, it's a choice. And it's a choice we have to make again and again and again. Faith is going to God and making that ask, Lord, I'm scared. I don't know how this is going to turn out. Lord, I have doubts. I have fears. I have worries. But I'm giving this to you anyway. I'm choosing to give this to you. That's what faith is. So let me repeat that because this last one is so incredibly important. Faith isn't the absence of doubt. It isn't incompatible with self-doubt. They coexist, my friend. And that's okay. So often we think they're the opposite, and they're not. They coexist. Faith is actually taking those fears, those worries to God, those doubts to God. They're not incompatible, my friend. You've probably heard the story in Mark chapter 9, verses 23 through 26 about it's a few more verses than that, but in Mark chapter 9, about the demon-possessed boy, this father that brings his demon-possessed boy to Jesus. And here's what he says in verses 23 through 26. He says, the spirit often throws him into the fire or into the water, trying to kill him. Have mercy on us and help us if you can. Now, there are a couple of things I want you to understand about this. Number one, we see that Satan is that's his job. Like his number one goal is to disrupt and destroy. So we see that this man says to Jesus, you can only imagine how this father must have felt. Bringing we have such great love for our children. We see them hurting. We see them in despair. We see them just struggling. And so he brings this child to Jesus and he says, Jesus, he says, please, if you can, this is what Satan's doing to my child. If you can, release him from these evil spirits, if you can. He didn't come to Jesus with 100% like this superpower of faith. He was saying, Lord, if you can do this, right? What does that show? That shows that even that man had doubts and still he chose to trust Jesus to rid his boy of these evil spirits. He chose to do that. And if we go down just a little bit further in verse 22, here's what it says. Jesus says, what do you mean if I can? Jesus asked. Anything is possible if a person believes. This father didn't give up. He did not give up because of his lack of faith. Instead, he chose to take his son to Jesus, even with the doubt. His doubt was not incompatible with his faith. He chose to take him. That's what faith really looks like, my friend. That's what faith really looks like. I think so often we put these superpowers on these, what we call super Christians, right? These people who never doubt. They never have doubt. They seem to trust God with everything. And we think that they're the only ones that have true faith in God. But that's not true. That's not true at all. You and I can have faith in God as well. We're not super Christians. We can have faith in God as well. It doesn't have to look perfect. It isn't in the absence of doubt. Our faith in God is taking our doubt to the Lord. And then when we go down just a little bit further in Mark 9:24, this is what he says. The father says, instantly cried out, and he says, I do believe, but help me overcome my unbelief. True faith isn't standing there without doubts, without uncertainty, without fears. True faith is going to God with all of that and saying, Lord, I believe, but help me with my unbelief. That's what true faith is. It's not something that just the super Christians have. And I even hate to say that, because I imagine those that we consider super Christians would say, they would probably cringe and say, I'm really not a super Christian, because they have all the doubts too. But they've learned how to choose, like how to choose trusting God. They've learned to choose to be diligent and persistent and consistent in choosing to put their faith in God, choosing to take their self-doubt, their uncertainties, their fears to God, to go to God and say, Lord, I believe, but help me with my unbelief, like this father did with this boy. And then we know in the story, right, that Jesus cast out the demons. You see, faith isn't pretending, plastering a smile on him, pretend like we trust in him wholeheartedly. It isn't incompatible with doubt. Faith is taking those fears, those worries, and being honest with God, being vulnerable with God, showing God that, you know what? I'm scared, Lord, but I'm going to choose to trust in you. I believe, Lord, but help me with my unbelief. So in Ephesians 6, we talk about, the Bible talks about the armor of God, right? All the different things. I'm not going to read all the different armor of God right now. I want to really hone in and talk about the shield of faith and what the shield of faith actually is. In chapter 6, verse 16, again in Ephesians, this is what it says. In addition to all of these, hold up the shield of faith to stop the fiery arrows of the devil. Did you catch what that says? It says, hold up the shield of faith. Hold up, right? What does that show? That shows that there's an action we must take. Having the shield of faith doesn't mean we have no doubts. Holding up the shield of faith doesn't mean we're not fearful. Holding up the shield of faith doesn't mean that we're not uncertain about the future. Of course, we have no idea what the future is going to hold. Only God knows that. Holding up the shield of faith what it means is we're choosing to put our faith in God, even with our doubts, our fears, and uncertainties. Holding up that shield of faith is going to God and saying, Lord, help me have more faith in you. Right? Just making that ask, my friends. That's what truly holding up the shield of faith is. Again, it's not for and I say quote unquote, and again, I feel like any of those that we would deem super Christians would probably cringe at that, right? But it's not, the shield of faith isn't those super Christians that are holding it up and saying, I have no doubts, I have no fears, I have no uncertainties. No, that is for all of us. The shield of faith is for you and I. And it's holding that up and saying, Lord, I believe, but help me with my unbelief. I'm scared. I have no idea how this is going to play out. I have my doubts, Lord, but help me with my unbelief. It's choosing to hold up that shield of faith. The other thing that holding up the shield of faith does is it positions us under the defenses of God. Did you catch that? When we hold up that shield of faith, that armor, that piece of armor, of God's armor in Ephesians 6, when we choose to hold up that shield of faith, we're choosing to sit under the power and the defenses of God. In other words, what we're doing is saying, in our own abilities, I can't do this. I can't do this on my own, Lord. But you can. This is when we learn to tap into the power of the Holy Spirit. We have the very power of God within us. We have the power, the power that actually, what am I trying to say? Called out. That's not the right phrase, but like help this man with his son get rid of the demons that had been plaguing this boy his entire life. The very power that did that that got rid of those demons, we have that same power within us. And when we're choosing to hold up that shield of faith, we're saying, you know what, Lord, I can't do this on my own, but I'm going to trust you, Lord. I am choosing to stand under your defenses, not my own. So how long and how often and when do we hold up the shield of faith? Yeah, it's probably a given, right? You've heard me say this enough times on the show, but we do it every day. We do it as long as it takes. There is no right or wrong answer. There is no set time. We have to do this every single day. We have to choose to have faith in God every single morning. We wake up and we say, Lord, renew my faith today. I believe, but help me with my unbelief, Lord. Lord, I am going through this and I see no way out. It looks impossible from my perspective. I don't know how to get through this, Lord. But you do. And so I'm going to choose to hold up my shield of faith. I'm going to choose to stand under your power. Because me alone, I can't do it, Lord. But you can. And I have that power within me. Praise God for that. Praise God for that. So you have to do this every single day. And on some days, you already know I'm going to say it. You're going to have to do it over and over and over again. This is just like anyone. My son right now is training. I think he's absolutely crazy, but I'm not a runner. Running is not my thing. He's run marathons. He's now training for, I don't even know. I want to say it's like a 50-mile. I don't know, some bizarre, like insane, like up an incline into the mountains. Believe me, ladies, I don't get it. I don't have a competitive bone in my body. I don't like those kinds of things don't drive me to, yeah, let's go. Other things drive me to do better, but yeah, not running. But anyway, he didn't just wake up and say, you know what, I'm going to go into the mountains, go up into Shenandoah. If you're from Virginia, you know, go to Shenandoah and I'm going to just do this today. I'm going to do this 25 miles up to the top of the mountain and 25 miles back down the top of the mountain today. No, he has a rigorous training schedule. He's making that choice every single day to train for that. He's choosing to get up every single day and prepare himself for this. You have to do the same thing, my friend. You have to choose every single day to hold up that shield of faith that is for you and I, not just, again, quote unquote, super Christians that have no doubt or no fears or no worries. No, that shield of faith is for you and I to stand up, to hold up, and to say, you know what? Lord, I believe, but help me with my unbelief. That shield of faith is for us to hold up and say, Lord, I have no idea how this is going to play out. And quite frankly, Lord, I'm scared, but I trust you. I'm going to choose to trust you in it. Why? Because I've seen you work over and over and over again in my life. And I know that you will deliver because you always do. It may not be easy, but I'm going to learn something pretty darn cool in this. That shield of faith, I'm going to choose to hold up and stand under your defenses, Lord. This is when, again, we know, right? What did I say in the very beginning? What faith really looks like when we start doing these, when we start choosing to hold up that shield of faith, Satan will turn up the heat. Okay. Big deal. Big deal. Develop that Wigglesworth attitude. Say, oh, it's you. And move on. Go about your business. Don't pay attention to him. You're under the defenses of God. He will protect you. Satan can't do anything. Sure, he can intimidate. Don't let him. Say, oh, it's you. Roll over and go back to what you're doing. Turn around and go back to what you're doing. You are a child of God. You have the very armor of God with you. You have the very power of God within you. You have the ability to have faith in God. Not just the super Christians, but you and I. When going through our days, dealing with life's struggles, dealing with heartache, dealing with impossibilities. We serve a God of impossibility, a God who multiplies, a God who changes things. The shield of faith is for you, my friend. It's not just for those super Christians. It is for you. Remember, you're not alone. You're not going to walk it out perfectly. You're still going to have days of self-doubt or of doubt and fear and worry. Choose to hold up that shield of faith anyway. Choose to take that to God and say, Lord, I believe, but help me with my unbelief. You are a beautiful child of God, created for a purpose and on purpose. You are a beautiful child of God who has the very power of God within them, within you, within them. You know what I'm trying to say. Hold up that shield of faith, my friend, because it's for you. You can train yourself to do that. Like eventually what's going to happen is when those doubts and those fears come in, as you continue to get persistent and consistent in putting up that shield of faith, as you practice doing that and train yourself to do that, it's going to become second nature. Satan's going to come for you and you're going to go, yeah, move on. It's going to be a blip like that. I know right now you're probably thinking, yeah, right, Tammy, you don't know what I've got going on, but I do, my friend. I do. I've been through all kinds of things. Chronic illness, financial strain, tough relationships, right? An episode where, my husband and I share how much it rocked our marriage, right? The chronic illness and what it did to our finances and all that stuff. I know, I get it. We all experience something just a little different, but it's the same pain. It's the same fears, the same doubts, all of the things. We just have to learn to hold up and train ourselves to hold up that shield of faith. So friend, next week, I told you this was the first episode in a 4-part series. Next week, we are going to dig into the story of, I'm going to try to say it again, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. That's what it is. Forgive me. Hopefully by next week, I will be able to say it really well. Abednego. We're going to talk about them being thrown in the furnace. The following week, we're going to talk about Daniel in the lion's den. And then we'll wrap up the series a few weeks from now and talk about Jesus and how he fed the 5,000. And so all of these, we're going to learn about faith in God and take these stories and see what we can learn about faith in God. So friend, if this episode blessed you today, I would greatly appreciate it if you would share it with a friend. In fact, this would be perfect wherever you are listening to the show. Grab the link. All you have to do is click share, grab the link, text it to a friend and say, hey, I'm struggling with this. I think you might be too, or I know you are too, or hey, do you want to just go through this with me? Go through this series with me and let's hold each other accountable at taking those steps of holding up that shield of faith when Satan comes in and tries to take you down, when you're beat down by life. Do it together, my friend. Accountability is so important. In fact, inside Confident Prayer Warrior, we actually have prayer partners where we actually hold each other accountable, or, the students hold each other accountable and say, let's do this together. You know that you do better when we're working together and we're all praying for each other and doing the things. So share this with a friend and go through this series together. All right, friends, listen, I can't wait to meet you back here and talk about the furnace next week. So until then, I will meet you back here for another episode of A Faithful God podcast.